What's going on, everybody? Sorry I'm a little late on this video. Mentally, it's been really hard week. I had some really bad guests that just overly trashed my house and just was an overall nightmare. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about that a little bit, the process, how to protect yourself, and all the steps you need to do to file a claim. I usually don't talk too much about negative stuff on this channel. As you guys may know, I'm not a big fan of it. Most of my experience with Airbnb and short-term rentals have been very positive, so there's not too many negative things, but every now and then something will come up that just throws a whole wrench in your system. This whole week has been a fight for short-term rental policy in Arizona. So I had to go down to the courthouse. I'm gonna have to talk to all kinds of city council members. So that's just like a whole other kind of stress. Fighting for your business and your short-term rental rights is a big topic, and it's insanely stressful. So it just made it very hard for me to even focus on trying to make content for YouTube. Yeah, for me guys, I'm a super creative person, so if I'm not really feeling it, or like mental block, or just overly stressed on a bunch of other things, it's impossible for me to sit down and just make some content. Before we dive into the negative, I'll kind of fill you in. Like I said earlier, policy. I'm in the process of launching the Refresh Desert, coming very soon. We did photos the other day, pretty much got done building out the entire guidebook and whatnot. Hopefully my website is getting closer and closer. With hopefully, I feel like it's very, very close. So that's really exciting. So stay tuned. There's so many updates. I'm gonna be updating you guys. So let me just give a little bit of context here. So one of my places, the Pamplemousse house, it's slow time in Arizona, and we're just not getting many bookings. There's many reasons, which I'm gonna highlight, that we're not really getting many bookings. So sometimes when that happens, you just get a little bit desperate, or you put your guard down. So I hired a new virtual assistant, and she's been extremely helpful, helping me with my day-to-day and whatnot. I let her kind of like take full reins of this listing that came in. And you know, there's a few things looking back that I missed, or I should have said or jumped in, but it's all part of the learning process. But I kind of like explain it to you guys a little bit. So last week I got a message from somebody wanting to book the house, and it was super aggressive message. This person, the very first message that popped up was like, "Hey, I'm an Airbnb host. I need a discount." Super weird. You hear me talk about this all the time. If people ask for a discount, they're probably gonna be a nightmare. So usually, most of the time, I just flat out say no. But I think I'm gonna start saying, "Oh, you want a discount? I could charge you more." I think I'm gonna start doing that. Yeah, and this host, super inappropriate, right away just started blasting me on messages. We respond within like a couple minutes, and he would like, "Send me an offer. I'll book right now. Give me a discount. It's just 2 families." Just like over and over and over again. Before I could even hit send on the message that I was writing, this dude was already writing another reply. Pretty aggressive. Don't recommend doing that if you are a guest. So he was trying to book 6 nights and wanted a discount. I said, "Look, if you book another night, the automatic 12% discount will kick in. That's the discount that we offer." And he was just getting very aggressive and very rude and whatnot. So finally we said, "Hey, you know what? This is not a good match for us. We're not gonna accept this booking." Then 24 hours later, we get another request that comes in. And all it says is, "Can you make sure the bathrooms are in the bedrooms?" I'm like, "What? Make sure the bathrooms are in the bedrooms?" That was the only question. So we wrote back like, "What do you mean? Look at the floor plan. It's all fully detailed. Is that good enough for you?" So we always ask a handful of questions. We asked, "Did you read the reviews? Are you okay with all the policies and whatnot?" And they wrote back, "Yes." This person had no reviews, which is not a problem. A lot of times I'll book people with no reviews. And then we went back and forth, asked a couple questions, and my assistant thought it would be a good idea to take the booking. Like I said, we were a little bit desperate because the place was sitting empty for so long. We had a few bookings here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty empty. So, you know, we put our guard down a little bit. The rate was already so crazy cheap anyways, so he ended up booking for 7 nights, got the discount. Then right when we accepted the reservation, it was like instant. He was like, "How early can I check in? I would like to check in right away." Not usually the biggest deal, but the way he was asking and like kind of demanding, I was like, "Oh God, this looks like a red flag. Again, this is not going well." Now my assistant was really helping me on this one at the time, so she was kind of taking the lead on that. We went ahead and let them check in, and this is where I messed up, and I'll be the first to admit it. I forgot, because the place was sitting empty, I forgot to turn the AC down to like 72. It was set at like 80 because we're trying to save energy. So when he first checked in, yes, the AC was a little warm. Oops. But it wasn't that hot that day, so it was only like 80 inside. We turned it down right away, and within a few hours, we noticed that it was already down to 72. Not a big deal. They told me they jumped in the pool and were hanging out outside in the pool anyways, so really wasn't that big of a deal, but I did feel bad, super apologize, and all that good stuff. Then the next morning, it just started getting more and more weird. He kept pointing out like little things like, oh, the refrigerator door is kind of sticking. It's not really open that well. I'm like, okay. He's like, oh, there's a little bit of dust and stuff outside furniture. Well, it's in Arizona. It's pretty dusty. Kind of blew it off. Then a few hours later, he said that the laundry room had a leak in it. So I was like, okay, I probably should get somebody to come out there ASAP. Are you using the washer and dryer? He said, yes. I said, please stop using that. If it's a leak, we need to turn it off and I'll send somebody ASAP. Then I don't really hear from him. Then a few hours later, he flips out that the gardener showed up and started cleaning the yard. It's very detailed in our guidebook, in our house rules, that we have a gardener who comes once a week. He flipped out. Like, oh my God, you know what? If you're in a house, you're gonna get people like that come by and clean up the house. Otherwise, it would never be clean and be impossible to have the landscape even remotely nice. So that one, I didn't even really respond. I just was like, whatever at that point. Then it just got way worse. Like this dude, oh man, so stressful. It just got way worse. Then he said the laundry room is leaking even more. And I wrote back like, I thought I told you not to use it. We're trying to get a plumber over there. He claims he wasn't using it. Then he started sending me pictures and the entire laundry room is completely flooded with water. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing over there? He kept denying it. He said it was backing up. Literally at this point, water was flooding everywhere. So I was like, please don't touch anything else. At this point, I always recommend you guys, you call Airbnb right away. Try to get ahead of the situation. Call Airbnb, say, hey, this guest is pointing out all kinds of things. Now he's saying that the washer and dryer is flooding. I told him to turn it off. I'm trying to get a plumber over there ASAP. I even offered at this point, if he wanted to check out and find another spot, no problem, I would refund him the rest of his money. I tried to go above and beyond with this guy, hit up Airbnb. Airbnb was like, okay. They looked at the messages. They were like, okay, this guy is definitely aggressive in your message. He's blowing you up. We're gonna go ahead and reach out to him as well. Now, I'm not gonna bore you guys with the millions of details and messages. It was like literally every 10 minutes, this guy was sending messages. One, it was like, it's flooding worse now, it's flooding worse. Then 5 minutes later, he's like, my laptop is soaked with water. What? What do you mean your laptop's soaked with water? You told me this place was leaking. Would you put your laptop on the ground? So I wrote back, I'm like, sorry man, the laptop has nothing to do with me. Again, please check out. At this point, I was like being pretty adamant to check out. I called Airbnb, I'm like, I wanna cancel this reservation. I wanna get this guest out of my house. I need to get the plumber over there. He won't let me send a plumber when he's there, so I can't fix the problem. I offered him a refund, all this stuff. Then, again, a few hours later, he hits me back and is like, another laptop is soaking wet. I'm like, another laptop? I'm not even gonna say the word. Not very smart, right? And I'm like, why are you hitting me up with another laptop wet? I'm like, you keep telling me the water's wet, obviously. Like, are you putting your laptop in the water? Like, how does this have anything to do with me? So I wrote him back, sir, you really need to check out. By this time, it's like 6 a.m. and going to like 10 a.m. Airbnb is trying. They said they called him multiple times. They messaged him. They said he's being super aggressive towards Airbnb. He refuses to leave until he gets a full refund and wants me to pay for both of his laptops. So at this point, I'm like, he's begging me to stay until 4 p.m. He's like, can I just stay till 4 p.m.? We have stuff to do, da da da. I'm like, that's crazy because you're saying it's unsafe to be in there, but then you want to stay till 4. So honestly, at this point, I was so exhausted from this guy. I was trying to get him out. He wasn't really cooperating. So I figured if I said, yes, you can stay till 4, I won't charge you for that day, and then I'll let you get out of the place so I can get the plumbing and all that stuff fixed. I figured if I did that, he would maybe calm down. I'd be able to get him out. Now, I don't know if anybody else here has had this problem before, but have you ever had a guest, check in, be a total nightmare, pain in the butt, and then you're having a very hard time getting them out of your place? If so, comment below, let me know how you guys have dealt with this, because this has been the most stressful nightmare situation, as you probably can tell in my voice. Now, during this process, I've been super active with Airbnb. I would call, I'd file a claim. Now, this is where Airbnb needs major help. The customer service is a freaking joke when it comes to this stuff. So I'm calling saying this is my safety, health issues, my house is flooding, I need this guy out of my house. They assign me a team manager. All of a sudden this guy goes to lunch or break and nobody else in Airbnb is technically allowed to help me because he's already opened up the case. Even though I've called 1,000 times in a row begging for help because this guy is getting hostile. He's now texting my phone like crazy, which I went ahead and blocked him. He's blown me up. He's threatening to call the cops, which I'm like, please call the cops. I'm like, that would be actually amazing if you did. So it just went on and on. Airbnb kept passing me around to different people. I kept threatening Airbnb, like, you don't understand, this is like way out of my comfort zone now. I can't show up to the property. These guys are super threatening. I don't want to physically get in trouble with these people. What do I do? And I'm sure some of you are probably asking, why not just call the cops? I did. I called the cops numerous times. I told the cops what was going on, and cops were like, oh, it's an Airbnb? Yeah, you're on your own. Like, nobody wants to help. And I get it. Cops are getting blown up like crazy about Airbnbs and rentals and all that stuff. The last thing on their mind is wanting to do that. They don't want to get involved. They basically were like, look, we can't do anything, but the cop was actually kind of cool. And he's like, if you give me the guy's number, I can at least call him and suggest that he leaves the property so we can get the plumbing fixed and whatnot. So at least the cop called. And then once the cop called him, I called the guest back and I was like, look, at this point, your reservation has fully been canceled. You are now trespassing. If you're not out of the property ASAP, I will file charges that you are trespassing on my property, and I will send people over there to evacuate you. I don't even know if I had people at the time that were going to go over there and help me get, but I definitely did not want to go by myself. It's definitely unsafe. Cops couldn't do anything. I was reaching out to all kinds of private security companies and whatnot to see if they can go there and help me, just kind of like make sure they pack up their stuff and get out. None of that happened. The cops kind of like suggested they leave. Airbnb finally got a hold of them again and kind of begged them to leave as well. Still, on my end, Airbnb really wasn't doing much at all, to be totally honest. And I'm an Airbnb ambassador. You would think they would kind of help a little bit more, but no, that is definitely not the case. They were super non-supportive. I still, to this day, have not heard back from the original guy who opened my case to check back on me, to check back how the situation was, any of that stuff. Mind-blowing. So we finally got the guy out of the place, got him all kicked out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna drive over there. I drive over there, I show up. Right when I pull up, I see a car pull up in the driveway. I'm like, what? So I kind of parked down the street. They showed back up. They're like knocking on the door. They're trying to get in. It looks like they're trying to break in. Apparently, they left some things in the house. I basically told them, you got to get out of here ASAP or I'm calling the cops. Luckily, they took off and they left. Then I went inside of the house and I swear on my life, it was so disgusting inside. I couldn't even believe my eyes. I could not believe they only stayed there for 2 days. It was only 2 days at this point, 2.5 days. There was water bottles everywhere. Every single towel, pool towel, every single towel was used. Sopping wet on every single bathroom. Every light was on, every fan was on. The washer and dryer was still overflowing. There was a ton of dirty stuff in there. You can tell they were washing clothes. Then the sink was filled to the rim with food and plates and all kinds of stuff, like tampons on the ground, dirty, all kinds of stuff. It was disgusting. It really made me nauseous and super disrespected. So at this point, you can imagine I was fuming, still couldn't do anything. I called my cleaners. They showed up the very next day and started cleaning out the place. And that's when we noticed these guests are probably professionals at doing this. They probably do this all the time. What they did is they overloaded the washer and dryer, the washer mainly, right? It looked like they had a bunch of clothes in there that were super, super, super dirty with mud and all that stuff. They overpacked it. Then at the same time, the sink, they stuffed it with food. There was trash in the sink, there was full oranges in the sink, there was bottle caps, there was eggshells. They literally stuffed the entire sink with so much food that the sink was completely backed up, all the pipes were backed up, and the sink was completely clogged. So either they're beyond stupid, or they just did this on purpose to flood it so they can try to file a claim against me and they can try to get air cover to give them a new place, which they were trying to do the whole time. Nothing was ever good enough. So they were trying to, maybe get 2 free laptops. I have no idea. So we had to call a plumber The plumber had to come over and fully snake it. It cost me $400. They were there for 2 hours to snake all the plumbing out. Once I got the plumbing out, they realized how much food was actually stuck down in the pipes. All kinds of dirt, chips, like it was nuts. The plumber was like, I've never seen this much down a drain. This is like mind blowing. No wonder why it was flooded. That's what was all over the ground that kind of looked like throw up from the pipes, but it was just backed up food trying to escape somewhere. So total disaster. Then of course we had to repaint the entire walls. We did all this in like 2 or 3 days. We had to paint all the walls, the baseboards, mop, clean. Extra cleaning cost me like $500 to get it all cleaned up. And during this process, I reached out to the guest and I was like, hey, we found out that you did this, this, and this, and this. And then he just started firing off. So at this point, I ended up reporting both of the guests through Airbnb app. You can do that. You can report the guest for violence and whatnot. Who knows whatever happens. But I blocked them from all my cell phones and messaging. So now the guests can never message me again. They can't reach out to me, which is fine. It's like, thank God. Still at this point, Airbnb is not really helping. I finally got one technical support lady that was like pretty nice and was like, get all your photos together, document everything. You can tell that this guest is being super aggressive and file a claim. And what is crazy about this entire thing is the guest is still allowed to leave a review. How does that make any sense? Airbnb knows this is a nightmare guest. I flagged the guest multiple times. I almost had to call the cops, but they didn't do anything. I get the guest kicked out, and then on top of that, they're allowed to write a review? What? How does that even remotely make sense? I have no idea. I haven't read the review yet because I'm working on my case and my review. I was kind of waiting until I can get my whole case dialed in, all the invoices and estimates. Now, what is a couple things I learned on this? One of the most important things I learned is I use SuperHog, which is an extra layer of security. And like I said, I have a new assistant. I take full blame of this too. We were rushed. I had my guard down. The guest did not fill out the SuperHog security checkpoint, which is another blanket of insurance, another background check, all that stuff. I missed it. She missed it. Super bummed because it was such a last minute booking. Everything was so rushed. These people were getting kind of aggressive anyways. We were desperate, but I learned my lesson the hard way. I learned my lesson the hard way. Plus, I was kind of curious because I always talk about don't ever let someone book your place if they ask for discounts. You hear me say that all the time. And a part of me was like listening to chats. I was like, is it really that bad all the time? Yes, it is. Do never, ever do it ever again. But I did call SuperHog and I told them the situation. And they said, yes, if they would have filled out the entire thing, we probably would have been able to flag them. But not only that, with all the damages and everything, we would have been able to help you and go after all those damages. So it would have been a lot easier instead of me just relying on Airbnb and Airbnb covered. So my stomach hurts that I missed that. It just kills me that I missed it. I will never do that again. For sure, I will definitely have steps in place that we all have to check. She has to check, I have to check. It's just one more layer of step. I'm brand new to it, so I'm kind of learning it. But if they would have filled it out, or you guys, if they don't fill it out, if they refuse to fill it out, then that's a #1 red flag. I would have canceled the reservation right there on the spot. So now I have to file air cover. And I just kind of wanted to explain the whole air cover situation, you guys. So that way, hopefully everybody can learn here as much as they possibly can. Like I said, I screen my guests. Every now and then things come through the cracks. I asked a bunch of questions. I was trying to be nice. I did put my guard down a little bit more than I ever have just because this place was not renting. But now with air cover, this is what you really, really want to make sure. Get as many photos as possible. Get photos of the cleaners cleaning, get photos of the plumber, get photos of the guy painting, all the supplies. Make sure you get invoices on professional letterhead, mandatory, any receipts, all invoices, cleaning invoices, documentations, the whole entire process. Make sure you screenshot certain things that you need to. That way you need to build your case really strong. Airbnb lets you have up to 14 days to build this case now, which is great, gives you plenty more time. But Airbnb has told me and myself from doing this many times before, I had a $12,000 claim one time. But if you get all of these steps dialed in, usually Airbnb is pretty good. I've never really had Airbnb fight me on the claim once I documented everything. I'll fill you guys in on what happens with this case, but I think it's gonna be a couple $1,000 all said and done. This guy even filed a claim on me saying I owed him all the laptops and a full refund. which I already refunded him all his money because I was just so over it. So I'll let you guys know how the air cover goes. But another lesson from this is how you present your place, right? This is a really beautiful place in a great location. When we started the place in design and furniture and all that stuff, I wasn't really a part of that project. They hired a designer. Now this is where I would have never done it. They really cheaped out on the furniture. The whole style of it is not my style at all. It's very poor design. The furniture looks old, it's beat up, but it's new furniture. Like, it's not old furniture, but it just looks old. It feels like a grandma style furniture. So what does that do? That attracts those type of guests. I hate to say it, bad design will attract parties or just cheap ass guests that always want a discount and whatnot. If you over style your place, you guys, will save you. Most of my places that are styled really, really nice, I don't usually have problems. And if I do have a discount question, it's usually because they're staying longer and they feel like, hey, I might as well try. So a couple lessons here. Always screen your guest. 100% get SuperHog. It will definitely help you, and don't miss it. All my guests are doing SuperHog now. It's usually not a problem. And then make sure you style out your place. Good design and all that stuff. With that said, we are actually selling this house now, because for me, I went and told the owner, I'm like, look, I can't keep managing this place. It doesn't get enough bookings. It's super stressful anyways. The only way we can really do this place right is we take out all the furniture, we throw it away basically, and we start over from scratch. And he was like, what? There's no way I want to do that. It's a lot of work and probably costs $40,000, $50,000, right? But it's the only way to make this place a success. You have to start all over. All the furniture just doesn't attract the high dollar rent. It is what it is. Good example, you guys, is I'll show you the link and stuff. You guys can go check it out and see what you think. But it just goes to show, spend the money to make the money and get better guests. I hope I didn't ramble on too much. It's been very, very stressful. Hopefully we can make this video, some learning lessons. Maybe this is why I got a bad guest, so I can make this video. If so, smash the like, comment below, let me know what you guys think. I'm exhausted.